And I'd also like to thank Craig Aaron, co-CEO for Free Press Action, and Laura McClearly, Senior Director of Public Policy at Unidos US, for being here today and for their essential work in the fight against algorithmic discrimination. Whether on the Senate floor or around the dining room table, artificial intelligence is the hottest topic of the year. But these complex algorithms have a darker side as well, one that has real consequences for everyday people. From setting mortgage and insurance rates, to screening job applicants, to determine eligibility for benefits, companies have already been using black box algorithms for years to make major decisions on Americans' lives. Yet these algorithms are often biased against marginalized communities. Here are a few examples. Biased algorithms have caused black people to be disproportionately denied mortgages compared to white applicants. Biased algorithms have caused women to be denied higher education opportunities and scholarships. Biased algorithms have caused individuals with disabilities to have their benefits restricted without any recourse whatsoever. And biased algorithms have prevented LGBTQ people from viewing job advertisements. This is unacceptable. If AI companies can promise that AI will cure cancer or solve climate change, then AI can also be free from bias and discrimination. Both of those personality traits of AI should be simultaneously enhanced, not just the benefits, but the protections that are put in against the sinister side of AI. And that is why today I am introducing the Artificial Intelligence Civil Rights Act, comprehensive legislation intended to ensure that the AI age does not replicate and supercharge the bias and discrimination already prevalent in society today. Specifically, my legislation would impose new rules when companies use algorithms to make decisions on employment and banking and healthcare, the criminal justice system, and other important aspects of our lives. The AI Civil Rights Act has three key principles. First, equity. The bill prohibits companies from developing or using an AI-powered algorithm for a critical decision that discriminates on the basis of race or sex or other protected characteristics. Under my bill, algorithmic discrimination will be unlawful, period. Second, transparency. Companies must independently test and evaluate their algorithms to identify and mitigate any discrimination. This provision sends a message to Silicon Valley. The AI era cannot be driven by the move fast and break things mindset that big tech foolishly adopted over the last 2 decades. And third, choice. Americans should know that when a black box algorithm is used to make a critical decision in their lives, and they should have the right to have that decision made by a human. We have to make sure that AI stands for all included, that everyone is able to benefit from AI, that it's not just the few who can benefit from its use. It's everyone, and everyone is going to be protected in a safe space. So what we hear from all of these tech geniuses is the wonderful enabling powers of AI, but we know there's a Dickensian quality to AI. It's the best of technologies and the worst of technologies simultaneously. It can enable, it can ennoble, but it can degrade, it can debase, and it can do both simultaneously. So we have to protect against the sinister side of cyberspace as AI makes this an ever more powerful technology. Equity, transparency, choice. That's what this has to be all about. And as Congress considers AI legislation this year, these three principles must guide our work. We have a responsibility to ensure that AI does not come at the expense of already marginalized communities. We have that choice. Do we promote innovation without addressing AI bias and discrimination? Do we protect profits over people? Do we allow biased black box algorithms to control our lives with no protections? So make no mistake, we can have an AI revolution while also protecting the civil rights and liberties of everyday Americans. We can support innovation without supercharging bias and discrimination. And we can promote competition while safeguarding people's rights. We can do it all. And that is why we must pass the Artificial Intelligence Civil Rights Act. So this is the beginning of the other part of the conversation. And now I would like to turn it over to my partner in the drafting of the legislation, Damon Hewitt, for his remarks on the legislation. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Senator Markey. It was profound words and profound leadership. My name is Damon Hewitt, President and Executive Director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, where our mission is to ensure that black people and other communities of color have the voice, the opportunity, and the power to make the promise of democracy real. Otherwise, democracy is just a word on paper. Now, AI is not our enemy, but it has been proven to be a force multiplier for all the bad things that already exist in our society. And that's why we're here today. Senator Markey, you are leading, but you're also answering the call. You know, over the last year or so at the Lawyers Committee, we have spoken and testified before the bipartisan AI Insight Forums that Senator Schumer co-led, before the bipartisan AI Task Force on the House side, any number of convenings, press conferences. And what became clear to us is that there's a need to take all of the great ideas that are out there, add to them, and put together comprehensive legislation. That's why several months ago at the Lawyers Committee, we rolled out our own model bill. It was called the Online Civil Rights Act. And we did that knowing that we didn't have the power to legislate on our own, but we knew that there was a champion out there waiting to answer the call and to lead on their own as well to put together and put forth comprehensive legislation. Senator Markey, you have answered that call in spades, and thank you. As AI has been increasingly adopted and proliferated throughout industries, it's made an old but hard-earned lesson very clear. Equal opportunity and civil rights cannot be outweighed by innovation and technological advancement. Indeed, as the Senator suggested, they can and should be linked. Every day, millions of Americans are impacted by the outputs of complex algorithms that, frankly, most people really don't understand, nor should they have to. Algorithms are used to make decisions about our daily lives in all aspects. It determines who gets bail, who can rent a home, where we can go to school, and who's determined to be a threat. And all too often, those decisions have not been made equitably or fairly, and certainly not transparently. Over and over again, promises of innovation from tech companies have resulted in products that lead to discrimination, disproportionately harming black communities and other communities of color. Because the algorithmic technologies are built upon data that is flawed, data that reflects societal discrimination and other invidious discrimination, then the outputs will be flawed as well. Because the teams, the professionals who develop these tools and technologies often don't reflect communities of color, then they can often make sure that they are bias-free or mitigate those harms. And so the problems are baked into the process from the very beginning, because inadequate testing does not reflect the diversity of the real world. Our lives and experiences are reduced to narrow parameters of lab conditions which frankly work against us. The irony, my friends, is stunning. The tools of the future are locking in the discrimination of the past. We can do better in this country, and that's what the AI Civil Rights Act is all about. This bill is being introduced by Senator Markey to upend this grim dynamic that we're talking about today, but also to chart a course to a more promising future. We're grateful to Senator Markey and Senator Hirono, his co-sponsor, who can join us today, for having the foresight to realize what's needed in this country right now. The AI Civil Rights Act is, as the Senator said, the first of its kind comprehensive legislation to apply civil rights protections in AI across sectors, across industries. It offers a vision for the future with a strong anti-discrimination provision, which the Senator declared is rock solid. It also prohibits using algorithmic tools that discriminate across the board. It includes an auditing requirement so that we can actually understand what's happening with these tools. It also includes transparency requirements and notice provisions so that people understand what happens when you opt in, or even give people a chance also to opt out. Both are very important. But it also includes a private right of action. That means that people will have the ability to vindicate their own rights in court if necessary, if they have to use that as a resort. That should not be overlooked. Algorithmic justice, friends, is a civil rights issue. Just as the struggles of the civil rights movement yielded critical landmark legislation, so too the problems we face today can bring us new legislation. The AI Civil Rights Act is it. The bill of the future is here right now. And we thank you, Senator Markey, for this partnership. We thank you for answering the call. And just like the 1960s, we knew not where the road would lead us, but we had to keep marching. We must keep marching now, whether it's at the tail end of this Congress, beginning of next Congress, however long it takes, we will get this legislation passed. Thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Damon. Beautiful. And next, we're going to hear from Craig Aaron, this co-CEO of Free Press Action. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator. I do want to thank Senator Markey for the invitation to appear today and for his leadership on this crucial issue, also to the Lawyers Committee for really being thought leaders and thought partners on these issues and ensuring that we treat AI as a civil rights issue. I'm Craig Aaron. I'm the co-CEO of Free Press Action, here to represent more than 1 million activists from across the country, working to ensure that media and technology protect civil rights and serve the public interest. Artificial intelligence is entering every part of our lives. There's a lot of hype about AI, there's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of fear too. But too often we're asking the wrong questions. The important question isn't whether AI is inherently good or bad, but who is going to benefit. Is AI going to make our lives easier, or is it going to be used to exacerbate inequality, exploitation, and discrimination? Who's actually going to be at the table when these decisions are made? Who's going to be in control? Who's going to be held accountable? We know this much. AI is a civil rights issue. Algorithmic decision-making is a civil rights issue. Data gathering is a civil rights issue. And the AI Civil Rights Act would prohibit the use, sale, or promotion of AI systems that discriminate on the basis of race, ethnicity, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, or disability. Importantly, the bill recognizes that we must evaluate and investigate all of these new tools for bias and for harm before they go on the market, before they're infused into the most important, sensitive, and private corners of our lives, whether it's access to education or housing, healthcare or insurance, or life or death decisions being made by courts, police, and immigration officials. This legislation would require those designing AI tools to conduct audits for potential harms and, importantly, publicly share the results. For too long, there has been no public input or public recourse when these hidden systems cause real-world harms. The Civil Rights Act AI Civil Rights Act takes a major step toward addressing these urgent issues and empowering federal regulators to keep up with evolving technologies. That's why Free Press Action endorses this legislation and urges all of Congress to support this bill and enact it into law. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Next, we're going to hear from Laura McCleary, Senior Director for Public Policy, Unidos US.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you to the Lawyers Committee for your leadership on this bill. I'm from Unidos US, which is a long-standing legacy civil rights organization with over 300 affiliates around the country that serves the Latino community. And actually, Senator Markey, you were the first lawmaker I ever worked with when I came to Washington in 2020, working on the Ford Firestone rollover cases, which led to the TREAD Act. And we also worked together on dietary supplement safety. You're always ahead of the curve. You always have such vision and dedication to the public interest. You know, there's been a lot of talk in Congress about AI over the last year, but comprehensive legislation like this bill is actually unusual and remarkable. Some congressional leaders were just quoted saying not to expect anything meaningful to be done on AI this Congress. This is beyond disappointing. It's irresponsible. We have all seen the ongoing speculation in the markets this area and the debate, the legitimate debate about whether there's an AI bubble. And nothing fundamentally has changed in the past year to create assurances that we all need to see whether these tools are worth their billions of dollars of investment and the costs, both human and environmental. Congress shouldn't wait around while all of this money pours into tools that have not even ever been properly and publicly evaluated and must course correct today. AI, as you have heard, is already in use in so many consequential parts of our lives, from healthcare to housing. And anyone, any group, can be treated unfairly by an algorithm. A famous example was an AI model for hiring that strongly preferred guys named Jared who played lacrosse. These issues persist. A 2024 Bloomberg study of a different hiring model built on ChatGPT showed that in every category of job, from retail to investment analyst, the model picked a different demographic group as on top because it predicts the future based on the past. This is not equal opportunity. This is an historical straitjacket, and it's un-American, and the people deserve better. This bill would lay essential foundations to allow everyone to see what AI is up to, evaluate its impacts, and fix where it discriminates against people. The tools are powerful, and people often defer to them because of that, putting their trust in essentially a black box. We don't call things trustworthy computers or responsible cars, because it's clear that these things are only as sound as their design and their users, and AI is no different. Trust is not an inherent quality of any tool. Instead, it is human, and it is earned. And this bill shows how we can measure the faith we can or should put in these systems, and would also reveal what about their design or outcomes needs more work. Given these high stakes, inaction is not an acceptable choice. And continuing to make the same mistakes we made with social media will yield the same result, a marketplace full of harmful, dangerous incentives. With AI, we still have a moment, an opportunity to channel innovation in ways that support transparency and opportunity and develop safeguards that make sense. I can't believe I have to say this, but people endow AI systems with magical properties, so we only will know these tools serve us instead of undermining our values when we test what they do. Without these kind of blindingly basic protections, it's like we are choosing to put hundreds of models of cars on the road that have never seen a crash test with a dummy inside. And this bill focuses on, as we should, on the most consequential kinds of AI outcomes, the ones that hurt people or hold them back. We all need basic data about how systems make these decisions, what they mean for people in the real world, and whose lives are even now being determined more and more by what they say. So with gratitude for the leadership from Senator Markey and Senator Hirono and support from Leader Schumer, this bill represents a major step forward, ensuring that all Americans would be treated fairly by AI when they look for housing, credit, educational opportunities, or health care. But more than that, it represents a chance, a rare chance, it turns out politically, to get this a little bit right now and assure that first, we do no harm, when the opportunity to do things in a better way still seems possible and also essential. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. So this is the dawn of the new fight, the AI Civil Rights Act, to make sure that all of those brilliant people that Damon and I were able to hear who came into closed-door sessions to talk about the wonderful things that AI can do for our society, also are held accountable for all of the terrible things which AI can do simultaneously. And we know that there can be some blindness too, because the vast majority of these algorithms are going to be written by white, male, middle and upper middle class workers at these AI firms. So there's an inherent bias to a certain extent, even from where they come from, and what the objectives will be for short-term profit making that have to be dealt with in anticipation of this full revolution being put on steroids, the AI revolution. So that's why we're here today. We're just letting people know we're ready to have this debate, this discussion, and anything that moves forward that benefits the AI revolution that comes out of Congress should be accompanied by the protections, the safeguards for everyone in our society. That's the notice that we're putting out today. And in the same way that we're right now on the cusp, finally, of dealing with children and teenage privacy issues that are causing a mental health crisis in our country, that took decades. So too are we ready to have the same kind of debate over the impact that AI is going to have upon our society. So let me stop right there and answer any questions which any of you may have. Yes, sir. Who are you, sir?
Ben Brody from Punchbowl News. You mentioned decades. How would you characterize, particularly your Democratic colleagues, but also your wider Senate colleagues, understanding of these issues and readiness to move forward with legislation?
I think that the headlines every day are educating my colleagues. Deep fakes that are impacting this election